What is going on, everybody? Today, we're going to be going through comprehensive overview supplementation for high testosterone. This is everything I currently take to have outstanding testosterone levels. I'm going to be breaking down each supplement, why I take it, different effects, and whether or not you should take it as well. Just an important disclaimer, none of this matters unless you master the other foundations of test maxing. You cannot outwork a bad diet, poor sleep, bad training, or a negative mindset with just supplements. So first up, we've got ashwagandha. People typically take around 300 to 600 milligrams every day. It's a native herb to India. It is a GABA B agonist similar to Xanax, but it does not get you fucked up. What it does do is produce a calming effect, lowering cortisol levels, which can and in most cases does cause a significant boost in testosterone levels, on average 15 to 20%. But you do need to use caution because it can dysregulate serotonin receptors if used long term, causing ED and other unwanted symptoms. So to combat this, we limit the use to about 12 weeks on and take a 4-week off period to rinse it out and let everything come back to normal. Because if you stay on for longer than that, that's typically when people will run into symptoms of erectile dysfunction, emotional numbness, and other weird brain fog symptoms, a little poor memory, stuff like that. So be careful with this one. Very effective. You will feel more calm, but use it respectfully. So next up, we've got Tonkat Ali. This one made huge headway because Andrew Huberman mentioned that he takes it. I take a 100 milligram dose of a 10% standardized extract every single morning. The controversy with it is most supplements on the market are found to not even contain any of the active ingredient or contain very little and have other contaminants. The one I use is from Nootropics Depot. It's a 10% standardized urocomanone extract that's been third-party tested. I found it to be extremely effective for myself as well as for all of my clients that have used it. It mostly increases free testosterone via reduced SHBG, but there is some anecdotal evidence that it also increases total testosterone. But it also acts on the dopamine and estrogen pathways. It's a mild selective estrogen receptor modulator, which means that it can block the effects of estrogen in certain tissues in the body, which can be a pretty good thing, especially if we're talking about stuff like gynecomastia. I'm not exactly too sure on how significant that is, but it's definitely noteworthy. One thing to be aware of is that it can raise the liver enzymes because it's taken orally, it has to be processed by the liver. So just want to make sure you're taking something like NAC along with it, which we'll get into later. But again, it's extremely effective. It caused rapid cosmetic, mood, libido, and strength benefits for me. When I started taking it, I'll put it up on screen right now. This was I think it was 74 days it took me to make this transformation. And I think part of it was due to the Tonkat Ali I was taking. But it's a pretty similar, across the board for me and my clients. It's about the scale goes up about 10 pounds while you start to look a little bit leaner at the same time. And just the feeling you get is crazy. Within the first week, you'll notice wow, feel kind of amped up, like you're on a stimulant, but it feels more natural, if that makes sense. But another thing that myself and many others noticed was increased nocturnal emissions, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it definitely shows that there's more androgenic activity going on. But I would put it as neutral. It's not really good or bad. You just clean your sheets afterwards. Speaking of being in the sheets, next up we have magnesium glycinate. So this is extremely important. I take around 500 milligrams, but you're definitely going to want to start lower than that. So one of my clients actually was getting diarrhea from just 200 milligrams. So you want to assess your tolerance. I start with 200. It increases REM sleep, which means you're going to have crazy dreams when you take this. You're going to sleep super deep. And if you've been used to taking melatonin or even smoking weed and you wake up groggy, this is going to be the opposite. You're going to sleep really deep and you're going to wake up refreshed, not groggy. So it's great. It reduces cortisol as well. And because of the deeper sleep, it increases GH and testosterone. It's also directly needed for the synthesis of testosterone in your body as well. But it increases growth hormone on testosterone due to the increased REM sleep. But everyone just loves to have a good night of sleep, and magnesium glycinate is the best supplement to support that. Next up, we got krill/fish oil for omega-3s. So what this does is it balances lipids. It's more specifically the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, and as well as improving the cholesterol profile in many users. It improves Leydig cell function. So your Leydig cells are in your testicles. And when your brain spits out GnRH to produce luteinizing hormone, which goes down to your testicles, which tells your testicles to produce testosterone, the luteinizing hormone needs to attach to the Leydig cells. So if the Leydig cells are functioning not so great, even if your brain's telling your body you need a lot of testosterone, your balls can't keep up. But if your Leydig cell function is optimized and your brain's telling your body, okay, here's luteinizing hormone, let's make testosterone, then you're going to make a lot more testosterone. So this helps keep that in check, and it also reduces inflammation. So all three of those things combined directly or indirectly support testosterone production. It's just really good to include for general health as well. Next up, I take vitamin D3 and K2. I take 5,000 IUs of vitamin D3, and I think it's 100 micrograms of K2. I'm not exactly sure the unit, but it increases conversion of cholesterol through steroids in the body. So if you didn't know, when you eat cholesterol in your diet, it goes through a pathway in the liver where it gets converted into precursor hormones, which downstream become testosterone. So obviously, if that's increased and you're eating enough cholesterol, you're going to have more testosterone. It's also needed for bone health and the immune system. And especially if you're in a cloudy climate like me, or required to be indoors during peak UV hours, I would specifically say for those individuals, definitely include this. Most people are deficient. And if you're deficient, you're going to be depressed. You're going to have low testosterone, and you're going to be at increased risk for things like osteoporosis or immune disorders. K2 is necessary, especially when you're dosing higher, like 5,000 or even 10,000 IUs, because it helps defer calcium to the bones instead of the arteries, for example. I had a client who was taking 10,000 IUs of vitamin D3 with no K2, and he started getting weird formations on his teeth because the calcium wasn't going where it's supposed to. Yeah, definitely don't want to be having calcium buildup in places where it shouldn't. But K2 also increases the hormone osteocalcin, which builds bones and is directly correlated with testosterone levels. And next up, we have zinc. I don't have a whole lot to say. It doesn't really have as many subjective effects as the other supplements on here. It's not like I take zinc and I notice I feel the zinc. It's not really like that. But it is direct micronutrient support for testosterone production. It's hard to get enough in your diet unless you're eating a lot of seafood or other things like that on the regular. So I just support with 30 milligrams every night just to make sure I have enough. And I got my blood levels tested, I think, one time, and it was just at the very top of the range. So I think 30 milligrams a night is good to maintain that. But I wouldn't go more than that because then you can start to have a copper imbalance. If you're taking too much zinc, your body excretes more copper, I think, and then that can lead to some symptoms over time that are not good. So definitely keep it 30 milligrams or below. Next up is acetyl L-carnitine. So this, more specifically just L-carnitine, has been making waves on the internet recently because people are some really good marketing out there. People are saying do you want to get shredded and drink this little cap full of liquid? And they're not exactly wrong. Obviously you need to have a calorie deficit and be exercising to get shredded, but L-carnitine with those things will help tremendously. It helps your body preferentiate the use of its fat stores extremely well, and it also increases androgen receptor sensitivity, which means that if you're pumping out a lot of testosterone, and a lot of that testosterone is free because your SHBG is not high, then there's more androgen receptors for the free testosterone to bind to and act on the tissue. So you're going to gain more muscle and you're going to feel a lot better. But one thing I noticed subjectively about taking this is I sweat like a motherfucker. If I take about a gram of this before I go work out, it's ridiculous. But I do take it on the regular, and I've noticed that it is pretty easy to shred fat. Next up, caffeine, everyone's favorite, whether it's via coffee or pre-workout, mostly through pre-workout. I have cut back a little bit recently because I was noticing that my tolerance was getting too high and I was feeling a little bit on edge, having some sleep disturbances. So I was taking around, and definitely don't do this, but close to 600, 700 milligrams every day. And I dialed it back to 200, and I feel way better. And you definitely don't need high doses to, have good workouts or be awake or get shit done. It's a mental thing. But I'm super addicted to it. But it is good because it increases wakefulness, increases strength output by directly stimulating the central nervous system. It's also an aromatase inhibitor, which causes more testosterone because if less of it's converting into estrogen, you have more staying as testosterone. So you're increasing your androgen to estrogen ratio by drinking coffee. But like I said, I'm addicted to it. If I don't have any caffeine, I'll get a headache, which is not good. So if you don't want to be dependent on something, maybe do like 5 days on, 2 days off. But most of the world is addicted to caffeine. So I just had this in here because I take it and it's noteworthy. So next up, we've got beta alanine. So if you've been in the gym and you've been in gym culture and you take pre-workouts, you know exactly what this is. You see, got the spiders here. This is a lovely image. But I add extra on top of the pre-workout formulas I take, just to get the full saturation / itch, because there's barely any products on the market have the proper dose of like 6.4 grams. But there's some weird studies on it. Like you have to saturate. It's almost like creatine where you have to take like a lot in like a longer period of time to get the full effect. But what it does basically is it delays fatigue in the muscles and helps you produce explosive movements. It's like, another support along with creatine. The other thing is like the subjective like tingling effect you get like 15 to 30 minutes after taking it. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people love it. I'm all for it. That helps me work out. Like I don't know what it is, but my workouts don't hit the same without it, and it's good for the muscles. So you know what? I throw a little bit of extra into my pre-workout. And this one I mentioned earlier, NAC and acetylcysteine. It helps the body clear ammonia, which means the liver gets to work on 500 other things before clearing ammonia. So if you're taking a lot of supplements, good to throw this in. It's also, I noticed like when I started taking it, like I just felt a little bit lighter, like a little bit less brain fog, less heavy, and like all my lab work showed that my liver enzymes got slashed in half when I started taking this stuff. So definitely super good for longevity and good if you're taking a lot of supplements. Definitely would include it. All right, next up, we've got boron. So boron lowers SHBG, kind of like Tonkat Ali, and is good for free testosterone support. I didn't really notice a whole lot subjectively when I started taking it, but I figured, the research is out there. It was good to include anyway. And it's a key micronutrient. And I don't really know where I get a whole lot of it from. I know raisins and like grapes are a good source, but I don't really know where else it comes from. But I would say if you want to maximize your free testosterone, definitely include. Okay, apple cider vinegar. If you've read like women's health magazines for like how to get a slim waist or whatever, you've probably heard of this, but it's actually really good for glucose disposal. So that means like if you ate a lot of carbs, it helps your body put the glucose away where it's supposed to be. And if there's extra, like get rid of it instead of storing it as fat. It also promotes healthy digestion / gut microbiome, and it has incredible antioxidant properties. So reduces oxidative stress, clears free radicals from the body. And, when your body's not under attack like that, it can do other things more efficiently, like producing testosterone. Next up, we have niacin. So this one's a little bit more niche. It was pretty popular back in the 60s, from what I understand, to be used as a pre-workout. But there's a non-flush version and a flush version. So the flush version is more fun. That's what makes you turn red, and it's like beta alanine on steroids. You get extremely itchy, extremely red because it causes capillary dilation. Now, some people fucking hate this, and I absolutely love it. I gave it to one of my friends like a few weeks ago, and he was like, dude, this is the best thing ever. So if you're a certified gym rat and you like the itch, definitely get into niacin. It also balances lipids. It boosts the HDL, lowers LDL. It's literally vitamin B3. But a lot of people don't like the itching side effect, and that got removed. But yeah, I take 500 milligrams before a workout a few times a week. I don't do it every day because I notice I kind of get like resistance to it. But yeah, a couple times a week, 500 milligrams gets insane redness and itchiness, and it's just beautiful. I love this supplement. Oh, and we have nicotine, probably the most controversial one on this list. So at the time that I made this document, I was addicted, but I just actually quit. But I was taking this at the time of the blood draw, so I am going to leave it in here. But yeah, a quarter of the world is addicted to nicotine, so there's a chance that you're watching this and you are. I used to be really bad. I was doing like 100 milligrams of pouches per day, but I cut down to 20, 30, and recently, like 5 days ago, stopped. And I felt like I wanted to kill myself for like 3 days, and then now I feel fine. So it's pretty mild withdrawal. It's just a little hump you got to get over mentally. But let's talk about the benefits. So we have aromatase inhibition, kind of like caffeine, and obviously focus. That's like why most people get addicted to it, is because it helps you focus. extremely well, and that's unfortunate because it's like not the greatest thing in the world for you, and it's super easy to get like hooked on it to focus. And it's not like caffeine where it's like, okay, like I'm addicted, I'll drink my dose in the morning and I won't get a headache. It's like addictive, like I feel like I want to kill everybody because I haven't had one in like an hour and a half. It's that kind of addictive. So it's like, it's a little different, right? But the other thing is to note that it has 5-alpha reductase activity, which means it increases dihydrotestosterone, which is 5 times more androgenic than testosterone. So it is going to make you more masculine, especially if you're still going through puberty. But if you're grown, it is going to support your libido. It is going to support like strength. But what else it might support, especially if you have genetic susceptibility, is baldness. Everyone's favorite thing about becoming older as a man is getting bald. So obviously we want to keep DHT at a like stable level, but it really depends on what your goals are, what your genetics are, how old you are. If you're in puberty, your DHT should be maxed out because that's what actually makes your dick grow. So you really want DHT to be as high as possible. But it is noteworthy, so I'm going to improve that, leave that in here. But and lastly, we have cholinergic activity. This is why it helps you focus. This is why it increases sympathetic drive, where you kind of get like that like fight or flight feeling, especially when you dose high with nicotine and like, you know, sweaty palms and you got to spit a lot. That's the cholinergic activity. Now this one, Panax ginseng. If you've ever read the label of your energy drink or pre-workout, it likely has this. So what this does is it upregulates the enzyme CYP11A1 in the liver, which is responsible for steroidogenesis, which means more testosterone if your diet is rich in cholesterol, kind of like vitamin D3. But it also is good for managing blood sugar, and the reason that it's in these blends is because it improves nutrient absorption. But I'm not sure if they really picked up on the whole testosterone boosting effect. It's weird because there haven't been any studies directly supporting testosterone. There have been studies reporting like anecdotal increases in well-being and libido and energy and focus and motivation from taking this, but they never look at the testosterone levels. But we can assume that because that's what it does in the liver, and those are the subjective effects from the studies, that it's increasing your testosterone levels. And the fact that it's in these energy drinks and stuff is like, it's good. I've never really taken it on its own, except for one time when I was in the Dominican Republic. They had like really cheap like vials of it. They almost looked like steroids, but like you stuck the straw through it and sucked it out, and it was tasty. But yeah, so like it's in Monster energy drinks, it's in Ghost, it's in Bucked Up pre-workout, it's in a lot of different blends, and it is going to increase testosterone, like pretty much guaranteed. If you have cholesterol in your diet, it's going to increase testosterone levels. And yeah, but it's only been added to these blends because of improving nutrient absorption. And finally, we have the godfather of gym supplements, and that's creatine. So creatine, one thing to note is that it actually improves cognition, especially in people who do not eat meat. But even in people who do eat meat, it improves your cognition significantly. It improves ATP production. That's the main thing. It's really good for those explosive movements, which means if you can do more explosive movements or squeeze out a couple extra reps, you're going to build more muscle. And a lot of times, like people think it's working instantly because it causes water retention. That's not really what it is. It's more like over time, like you'll gain a few extra pounds of muscle throughout a year if you're taking it, which is good. We want that. But it does need to be taken every day. I take 9 grams per day because that's a tablespoon. It's simple. People say like, oh, 5 grams per day, but recently more people have been saying like, I'll take 1 gram for every 10 kilograms of body weight. And I'm about 84 kilograms right now. So that's 8.4. I take 9. And also increases DHT pretty significantly. I think one study said like 57%, which probably contributes to like one of the urban legends that creatine makes you bald. Probably makes some people bald, but not everybody. But yeah, that's a pretty significant increase in DHT levels. And you are going to feel the strength and the libido from that if you're particularly sensitive to that hormone. So yeah. But yeah, that's everything I take to have a testosterone level of 1153 and a free test of 288.3. Let me know down below in the comments if you have any questions or you want me to go more in depth about something. But yeah, I gave as much information about everything as I could. And just because I take everything on this list doesn't mean that you should, because everyone has different needs. Maybe there's something on here that you shouldn't be taking for one of the reasons I mentioned, or maybe there's something that's not on here that you should be taking. Everyone's different, but this is what I take and this is why. Once again, if you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. But yeah, that's it for now.